Visions haunt me, scars taught me. Seems like Satan got me right where he wants me. He said the demons to come get me. He on my shoulder screaming, he ain't done with me. So I look to the sky and pray harder. Me willing to die, make me a martyr. Allah, please save me from this horror. Sins of my mother, faith of my father.
So I'm here with Mr. Rahman Hall. Did I do it right?
Yes, yes.
Period. He's author, he's businessman, all the things. Mr. Hall just recently wrote his first manuscript. Was it your first? Because I know you're in media.
Yes, my first.
All right. Scars, Sins of My Mother, Faith of My Father. That is a heavy title, Mr. Hall.
Yes, ma'am.
So before we get into the book, and I saw the correlation of the title in the first chapter and just the messaging and how it ties together with the faith building and then the letdown of your parents. So before we get into that, can you tell us a little about yourself as the businessman from Newark, New Jersey?
Yes, I was born and raised in Newark, New Jersey. I entered the corporate world about 20 years ago. I'm now a corporate professional. I'm an insurance broker working for a firm.
Mm-hmm.
I moved from Newark to Georgia in 2018. Bought a house, trying to lay some roots here, and it was the best decision I ever made. I've been working for the same company for 15 years. They allowed me to move from Jersey to Georgia, keep my job and work from home. So I'm just living the life right now.
Okay. I love this for you. You can sit at home and sip coffee and not even take your bedroom shoes off to go to work. I love this
Yep,
for you.
that's right.
Or your slides. Now tell us about your book and the inspiration to write this legacy body of work.
Well, it did start off to be what it turned out to be. Um, I I I wanted the book to be about a disgruntled ex-rapper who was upset at the music industry and decided to kill the top MCs out there,
Oh, wow.
leave a rhyme with the bodies. And it was gonna be a big CSI, Criminal Minds, Law and Order, episode book. And then I talking with my uncle, who's a publicist, Angelo Ellerby. He
Oh.
convinced me to write the story because I had in that book I had my character having a split personality brought
Mm-hmm.
on by being molested as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I told my uncle that this was a fact-based story until it gets to the serial killing part. So he said, "Well, you was molested?" I said, "Yeah, but that's not what I'm writing about." So he convinced me that the story I should be telling is coming from what I came from and being successful in life, that I may be able to help some kids and even some adults who are going through or been through what I went through. So that kind of resonated with me. And so that's what I decided to scrap the fictional book and write the book about my life.
How did I know Mr. Ellaby had his hands on this? Something told me, Mr. Ellaby, because one of my questions is, did you have a mentor? Who did you draw inspiration or just
Yeah, he
information
was the
from?
influence. Yeah, he was the influence behind this. Um, so I I went with what he said, and I started writing the book, the true story about my life.
Yeah, I mean, if he saw a testimony for someone else, your life is a testimony for someone else, then that's what it is.
Most definitely,
Mhm.
and that's the thing that really got me. That if I could just help one kid that went through what I went through, then I consider my book a success. But I
Uh,
am trying to touch millions with my message.
Not just a kid, like we have so many traumatized Black young men that went through
Most
what you went
definitely,
through. I mean,
most
and I
definitely.
didn't get to read the entire book, but just reading the press points for the interview, I was like, wow, this is a lot for a
Yeah,
man to go through.
yeah. I promised myself I would take this story to my grave
Right,
and would tell a soul, which is how most men look at it.
right,
You know,
right.
especially if it's a man that's molested by another man, they never gonna tell that story.
Right, right, right,
And
right.
then if it's a man molested, if it's a boy molested by an older woman, we take that as a badge of honor.
Facts,
I
facts.
just had sex early. It's not,
Mhm.
no big deal.
Right.
But I have to realize that rape is rape.
Rape is rape.
Molestation is molestation.
Right.
You can't have two sides of that coin. So
Facts.
yeah,
Right. Well, anything with a child is bad.
yes, yes,
Anything with a child,
yes,
because that's a,
indeed.
when you look at your baby pictures and your childhood pictures, and then you wonder, well, what about this innocent face made you want to do that?
Yeah, when it came to trying to get into her mind on why, she did it, I felt blank. I thought it might be the drugs because her and my father were intravenous drug users. This
Mm-hmm.
is in the 70s when it was flooded. Our Newark was flooded with drugs
Right.
and alcohol. They got caught up into that, and they was in and out of jail. So I kind of gave her an excuse on the
Mm.
drugs.
Right.
But I've never. She died before I can speak to her about it.
Wow.
So I never got a chance to actually, get some insight from her on why she did what she did.
Right. I'm sorry that you didn't get to speak with her about it. I know that would have been pivotal in your life in general. Um, Now you were stillborn, like well, you didn't say that, but I read it.
Yes,
And a heroin addict because of your mother. One would say that the odds were stacked against you at birth, but you say in manifesto that it was predestined as part of your purpose. I mean, in a roundabout way. So
yes.
explain why.
Well, my the book is called Sins of My Mother, Faith of My Father.
Hmm.
Because at the same time that my mother was molesting me, my father came into my life and started teaching me about Islam.
Right,
And that's what I relied on to get past this. So I've always had a connection to God.
right.
In the book, I tell the story of how my father was arrested at my birth,
Hmm.
and he just kept reciting the opening surah of the Quran over and over again, and that's how he came up with my name. My name means gracious, merciful God. He named me Rahman Rahim Allah, and that's from the opening surah of the Quran.
Right,
So that's where he drew my name from. So I just felt like it was part of God's plan for me to go through whatever I went through. And when I tried to commit suicide, this is what confirmed it for me. Because they got to a point in my life where I tried to commit suicide.
mm,
And at that time, I'm sitting on the bed. I just took a bottle of sleeping pills
yikes.
and drunk it down with some beer. And I was like, okay, I'll go to sleep and that's gonna be it. And I heard this voice speak to me. Now God has always been in my head, guiding me through things, telling me when I'm in danger. That's how I got the name Prophet. And so at this time, I heard a verbal voice as if someone was sitting next to me. And it said, Rahman, this is not the way your life was supposed to end. You were supposed to do something great.
Right,
And I was like, what was that?
right.
And I immediately jumped up, ran to the bathroom, stuck my finger down my throat,
Mm,
threw up everything on my stomach because I had already took maybe about 6 pills.
hmm.
I said, now that I might be able to survive, but if the rest of that bottle hit my system,
Right.
I'm done.
Mm.
So I promised God at that time when I was throwing up in the bathroom, if He saved my life, I will do this great thing that He says I'm supposed to do. Now, originally, I thought that I was supposed to become a rap star, you know, and be in the public eye. But I realized as I started writing this book that this was the great thing that he had planned for me to help kids that or adults, as you say, that has been through some type of abuse.
Right. Now
So
you've
that's
been
the
through.
mission that God has me on.
Well, when you make a promise to God, you got to follow. You got to take care of it
No
and
doubt.
see it through. Yeah.
No doubt.
Now, I know that you run your own media company, but writing a book is different than writing a story, especially one that's reflective like yours and is just like my jaw is dropping. You're not supposed to show emotions in interviews, but I'm like, what the world? Now, how difficult was it for you to find the words to the parts of the story that were traumatic that has haunted you for your whole life?
Very hard. I'm not gonna lie. There was a time that I just had brain freeze
Mm,
because I didn't want to relive those moments. Because each moment I spoke about in my book, I went back to that little 8-year-old boy.
mm,
I went back to that room that my mother molested me in.
mm.
So it was really hard writing those words. And I didn't really know how graphic I should get with the actual events, but I told the story as it happened.
Right,
I when it first happened to me, I told that in detail, and that was the hardest part.
right.
I started writing around the book, not to get to that part. I went to the next
Right.
chapter,
Mm.
just to not,
Because it's, yeah.
yeah, to not go into that headspace. And it
Hmm.
was difficult because at the time this was happening, I was having a lot of nightmares
Mm.
about the different things that my mother had put me through. And I started to have a few of them again while I was writing this. So that was very, very difficult for me. But I've always been the type that I express myself through the written word. I've been
Hmm.
writing poetry and songs since I was 12. I grew up in a musical household with a baby grand piano in the living room, and my aunt threw parties, and I fell in love with music right
No.
then and there. So when hip hop came, I gravitated toward it, and the rest is history. I started a rap group that I was in for about 10 years. So music is my life. So that's why when I'm writing this book and the songs are coming to my head about what I'm writing about, it just was a natural coalition for me to write some songs to go with this book.
Right.
So I came up with the idea every chapter is going to have its own title song.
Okay.
So there's a soundtrack that comes with the book as well.
I saw that.
And yeah, so I'm very proud of the work I did.
Congratulations.
Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome. So, and I was going to ask you, how long did it take you to write the memoir? Since you didn't have to make anything up, then this is a true story. So
Yes,
there's not a writer's block per se, but like you said, having to walk away from trauma at, you know, and rehashing those feelings.
yeah.
Um, how did you stay locked in? What inspirations did you use to stay locked in outside of the music?
I had a lot of distractions writing this book. It took me about 9 to 10 years to write this book.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't an easy thing to write. I was going through relationship issues. I had other outside distractions. And when I moved to Georgia in 2018,
Hmm.
I locked in.
Right,
I said, my plan is to come here, buy my house, find my wife, write my book.
right.
So I bought the house and I just locked in. I said, let me focus on this book and the music, and my wife will come.
Mm.
Unfortunately, that part hasn't come yet, but
She coming. God didn't
he's
say what.
coming. God,
Right, it's no
hey,
when.
that's right. It's all in His time.
Right,
It's
right.
all in His time. Yes, ma'am.
Or there is a when. It's just not a time frame on it.
True.
So,
True.
now, did you feel like you were like you said, your mom passed away, so you did not? And this is another thing that I wanted to address. You made a point in the beginning of the book to say, there's certain things that you probably will never know about her. Um, so it's like she was a secret that nobody talked about just because of how she was. I don't know the answer to that. But did you feel a conclusion like, okay, I've written this story. And this is now my closure piece since I don't get the verbal words.
Yes, and I have a song on in the soundtrack. The third chapter is called "Sins of My Mother, Faith of My Father." So in that song, I talk to my mom,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm interrogating her as if I was the police,
Oh,
and she's being arrested, and I'm
wow.
asking her questions
You had to.
about why. Yeah, I'm asking her the questions that I wanted to ask, and wasn't able to. Also, the second verse in that song, I'm talking to my father because I never told him what was going on.
Right.
So in the verse about my father, I'm talking to him, telling him about what was going on. So that kind of helped me. Writing this book helped me get the closure I needed. I realized too that I still held some type of contempt for my mother.
Of course.
Some type of blame, and I realized that I had to forgive her, and not for
Right.
her, but I had to get that hate out of my heart so I can heal and I
Right.
can move on. So, yeah, writing this book and the music has given me the closure I need. Now, I'm still a work in progress,
Right. Right.
so, I'm still growing,
Mhm.
but yeah, it did give me some sort of closure that I needed to actually clear my mind of all the things that I was holding in for 50 years.
Right. To get through life,
Yeah.
having to get through life with trauma unhealed is,
Yeah.
uh,
And once she died, I just buried it. I just act like it never happened.
right.
But then I started reflecting on things and getting these visions. It's like, wow, I was really, really messed up as a teenager,
Right.
you know? And then I realized that my story may be able to help some people.
Right. It will. With your music, how long did it take you to write the songs for the book?
I've been writing music for a long time. That took me no time at all. I'm a concept writer.
Uh-huh.
So if I get a concept, you give me a concept and I'll pin it.
Right.
So as I wrote when I sometimes I wrote the song before I even wrote the chapter.
Right.
A
Right.
couple of chapters. Once I got the idea of what the chapter name was going to be and what I was going to talk about, the words was immediately coming to my head for the song. So that didn't
Well,
take long at all.
the book is written very well. I will tell you that. I haven't read
Thank
the
you.
entire book, but from what I've read, it's written very well, very detailed, and very gripping. Now, you were born into a life of torment since birth that you carried through adulthood. What are some of the stigmas or the things that you overcame? May it be through counseling or just of older age? What are some of the main things you overcame?
It was basically through my belief in God.
Hmm.
I gave it all to God. I Even when it was happening to me and my father was teaching me about Islam and I felt like I couldn't tell anybody,
Right,
I just prayed that God would save me.
right. Mm.
I would break out my Quran after an incident with my mother, and I'd read the Quran and just pray that God help me and save me from what was going on. And eventually, that gave me the strength to reject her advances.
Hmm.
So and I sought therapy, but I didn't seek therapy till later in life, maybe about a year or two ago.
Mm.
Um, I kept it all inside, and as I was writing writing this book and music has been so therapeutic for me,
Right,
and it was my healing mechanism on writing, and it has always been. Even as a child, if I went through some childhood trauma and got my heart broke by a girl, I'd write a poem about it or a song about it, get a
right,
good
right, right,
cry off, and was able to let it go and move on.
right.
So writing for me was the therapy that I needed. Now I did seek therapy because as I told people about this book, they would tell me, "Oh, you need to go talk to somebody. You need to seek a therapist." And in my mind, this book was my healing mechanism.
Right.
This book was my therapy. So I said, but maybe they're right. Maybe I do need to talk to somebody. So I scheduled an appointment with a therapist, and I went to see him. We had 3 sessions. I told her, well, it was a female. I told her all about my life and what was going on in the book, and what I've been through. And at the end of the 3 sessions, I said, Doc, I do want to schedule us to have a regular sessions.
Right.
And she told me, and this blew my mind because it's what I thought. But to hear a trained professional tell me this, she said, I'm gonna be honest with you. She said, you look like you're on your healing journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really think you need to talk to me on a regular basis.
Which
Now, if
is
you
good.
go through something and you need to speak to me, sure, call me, book a session, and we'll talk. She said, but just keep on the path that you're on. She said, because it seems to be you're healing through it. She said, for what I've heard and what you're telling me is this is healing you. This is your
Right.
mechanism. She said, some people heal differently. Some
Fact.
people need to therapy to heal. They need someone to
Right.
talk to.
Right. 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 I
Um, you
agree.
know, and and I said, well, Doc, there was another reason why I wanted to talk to you as well. I said, because my journey is going to take me on a path where I'm trying to help others.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do I tell others about healing,
Right.
how to heal from a clinical perspective? She said, well, you don't have the education to advise them from a clinical perspective.
Right.
Everyone heals differently. She said, you just tell your story, and your story will be there, help them to heal.
Right.
So, I took that advice as well, and I plan on lecturing. I'm gonna go to the Boys and Girls Club, churches, any place where I can speak to people, and I'm pretty sure there'll be people in that audience that has been through what I've been through, and I'm hoping I can touch them in a way that I can help them on their path to healing.
I'm sure. Did you have any strong Black representations growing up? Who were they?
Yes, I was being raised. My mother abandoned me, my brother, and my sister, and back then they would just place you with a family member.
Right. Right.
No legal, no court. You just go stay with them. So I was living with my grandmother and her sister, my great aunt Nellie. And my grandmother passed away when I was 5, and my great aunt Nellie raised me to an adult. She's the one that gave me my morals and values and character and gave me the love. She was like my mother.
Right.
So she raised me, my brother and sister with a lot of love and care. And the whole neighborhood, you know, took that adage, it takes a village to raise a child, very seriously
Facts.
in the 70s. So, I had a whole block full of mothers and fathers. You know
Right.
what I mean? So, but my Aunt Nellie, and I talk about her in the book, she was the patriarch of the family, and she was my guiding light. And, I never was able to tell her, and I knew I could have talked to her about this, and
Mm-hmm.
she would have kept my secret. But I'm
Right.
thinking if I do that, she'll stop I'm 8 years old. I want to get to know my mother, not in this
Right.
way, but I wanted to get to know my mother. So I figured if I did that, if I told, she would stop my mother from coming around. I never see her again. So that was one of the reasons why I kept it to myself too. Also to protect my brother and sister. I didn't
Right.
want child services to find out and come take us from my aunt,
Right. Right.
and embarrassment, shame, guilt. There was a lot of emotions that I was going through at this time on why I kept it to myself. But my Aunt Nellie and my father teaching me about Islam, they
Mhm.
were the two foundations that helped me to overcome and survive this situation.
I'm glad because I mean, you see kids like the Menendez brothers that had a
Yeah,
totally different outcome.
yeah.
I
R.
mean, we don't
Kelly. I could have been
argue.
I could have been the next R. Kelly. You
Right.
know, I and in my book, I write about how, to a certain degree, the abused become the abuser.
Oh yeah.
Because as I was a kid, I was very promiscuous.
Right.
So I'm sleeping, I'm having sex with 13, 14, 15-year-old kids who are not ready for that.
Right. Right.
So
Yikes.
so how many of those lives did I turn into being promiscuous because they had sex at an early age?
Right.
So I got a song about that, begging their forgiveness in my songs. And I'm hoping that they read my book and
Right.
I can touch some of them as well. So
Well,
it's
you've lived a long life, sir.
thank you. Yes, I have. Just turned 60 August the 1st.
Oh, that's good. I mean, getting to where you are at 60 and having this peace,
Yeah,
that doesn't come easy when you again carrying trauma your entire life.
yeah,
So, most kids raised in torment are the biggest dreamers that I know. And because dreaming in the torment took them to different places, even if it
right.
wasn't real. Now, what did you want to be when you grew up, and did you fulfill at least one of those dreams?
When I first, my first dream of what I wanted to be was a doctor or a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was social conscious even at an early age. And I figured those was the two professions that black people needed the most. They
Right,
need doctors that care about them and heal them, and they need lawyers because we're being arrested and jailed at an enormous rate,
right,
which my mother and father was in and out of jail.
right, right,
So
right.
that was my first thought of what I wanted to be, my first dream. I had a teacher in grammar school that tried to shoot down that dream.
Oh,
A teacher told me, "Oh, I'm dreaming too big.
oh,
I
wow.
need to I need to set an attainable goal." And I told
Attainable.
her, attainable goal. And I told her at that time, I said, "Listen, my aunt told me
Mhm.
that I can be anything that I want to be. So, I don't know what you're talking about. If I want to
Okay.
be a doctor or a lawyer, I can be a doctor or a lawyer. That's up to me. That's not up to you."
Right, right.
So, yeah, but then once I fell in love with music, uh, I wanted to be the biggest rap star on the planet. And I thought by now I would be have a couple of albums out, a couple of Grammys,
Hmm.
things of that nature. That was my dream and plan. And that's why I was writing the book, because I was a little bitter. I mean, the first book, because I was a little bitter that this never happened.
Right,
But as we talked about God's plan, I I fulfilled my dream with this book and music. I now have an album out. I have a rap album out. And
congratulations.
it's not just frivolous bragging about, girls and jewelry and money. These songs will actually help people. And that what makes me so proud. So this was on his time.
Facts.
As we just said, this was how this meant to be. I wasn't meant to be a rap star and out there like
Right,
that. I was meant to do this book and have this soundtrack now.
right.
So I'm very proud of that.
You were meant to be an intercessor, and you have a testimony to share to help others overcome. To maybe it won't take 50 years to get there, maybe a little
Exactly.
earlier by listening
Exactly.
to you.
Yeah, and my plan is to open up some healing centers all
Hmm.
across the country. I'm gonna start here in Georgia, but I want to open up a center that people can come to. If they need housing, they need medical, they need jobs, they need whatever they need. I want to be able to provide people who've been abused of any kind
Right,
to succeed and let them know that you can. Don't
right,
give up. Because a lot of people, a lot of kids, adults, they give up. They give up, commit suicide, they turn to drugs and alcohol, which I did.
right.
I've overcome alcohol addiction, drug addiction, addicted to sex. I smoked cigarettes. And all these things I was able to come, and I did it without a rehab. It was my faith in God and my belief in God that saved me. You
Oh,
know,
well, that's all you need. Now,
yes, it
you
did.
in the press kit, it says you were mean to women. It was that because of promiscuity, or was there
It said I
uh
was mean to women.
yeah, was it because you were promiscuous? Is that what you consider like
Well, yeah, yes, that's what um I feel so bad about
mhm.
because of the girls that I was having sex with. I've never I don't have a mean bone in my body. I don't.
Yeah, because I was like,
I don't.
wait a minute. This
Yeah,
doesn't seem like the type that had would curse you out. I have a
yeah,
booming voice and I
no.
would curse a person out.
No,
But
I
I don't
was
see that.
no, that was never me. Um I was taught too well to respect
You
women.
respectful
You
because you're
pull out
aunt.
their yes, you pull out their chairs for them. You light their cigarettes they smoke. You give them your coat if they're cold. There's not a door. If I'm with a female, there's not a door that she walks through that I don't open for her.
Okay.
So that's how I was brought up, and those the values that I still hold today.
Gentlemen, period.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Now, have you answered the question? You want to create a safe space for men like yourself where you can come together in fellowship. But do you have something like that now, like a place where you can go?
No, I don't. I still read my Quran.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever
Okay.
I'm feeling distressed, I'll read my Quran or I'll write something. I'll write it out. And that really gives me music is my therapy. That's my
Right.
healing mechanism. So I'll throw on one of my songs if I'm stressing about something, or I'll write a new song about it. I create music as well. So I'll
Right.
create the music for it. I'll write the lyrics, and then I have a little studio in my house, so I'll record it because I want to
Right.
see how it sounds.
Okay.
So yeah, yeah, that's my safe space.
Okay. That's hey, it's a safe space.
Yep.
Now, with the information that you did learn about your father and your mother, did was there mental health issues there?
Now, I was told that my grandmother had some mental issues. It was
Hmm.
schizophrenic.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if that was, one of the cause. But my father, when he got out of jail, he had turned his whole life around.
Mm-hmm.
He had
Mm-hmm.
became very religious and very into Islam, as most men in the 70s that went to jail did, you
Right.
know. So when he came out, he started mentoring me, teaching me Islam. I was reading the Quran. By the time he came out when I was 9.
Right.
By the time I was 13, I was reading, writing Arabic and speaking Arabic.
Oh wow.
Okay, so my father was a very big influence in my life, as far as my spiritual side is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that spiritual side is what saved me.
Well, you're here today to tell
Yes,
the
indeed.
story.
Yes, indeed.
So, what more do you want to do with this body of work? A movie in store, and where
I
can viewers find it?
Yeah, as I wrote the book, I saw the movie. I saw the scenes. That's why I tried to write the book and put you in the scene of
Mm-hmm.
what was going on. So, and I have been in contact with a independent film company here in Georgia, and they want to turn it into a movie.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you. So they're gonna let me write the screenplay as well, and be co-director and I saw this coming as I was writing the book. I said, yeah, this would be a good movie, um, and that's one of the plans. I also am starting a second book.
Mm-hmm.
My second book is going to be about triggers
Okay,
because people that go through trauma, they have triggers
they
that
do.
that cause them to either be in pain or lash out at someone, and the person might not even know that's one of your triggers. Because
Right,
if they would
right,
have known, they may have not done that or said what they said. So
right,
my next book is going to be about how to identify your triggers
right.
and talk about them. So and tell whoever you're dealing with about them so you can heal from that.
Right.
And also I want to talk about in the trigger book about the, I call it the Uncle Johnny syndrome.
Oh, wow.
This subject has been swept under the rug
Mm.
for generation after generation after generation.
Right.
We all had, growing up, we all had the uncle that they told you to stay away from. I call him Uncle
Mhm.
Johnny. Don't go around Uncle Johnny because Uncle Johnny liked to touch little kids.
Oh, man.
Okay?
You're right.
Stay away from Uncle Johnny. Make sure you stay away from Uncle Johnny. Yet Uncle Johnny is invited to every birthday party, every Christmas gathering, Thanksgiving, cookout. So how are you supposed to stay away from Uncle Johnny
Right. When the family keeps bringing
when
them
the
up.
family keeps bringing him up? And you know, if Uncle Johnny does touch you, now you're scared to even go back and tell
Right.
because you've been warned, and
To
you
stay
don't want
away
to
from them.
hear, "I told you to stay away from Uncle Johnny," like it's your fault,
Right.
you
Right.
know? Or so instead of the parents protecting the kids and having Uncle Johnny locked up where he belongs, they condoned and perpetuated that situation, and I feel that was the biggest crime,
Right. I agree.
you know. So that's my second book is we need to tell on Uncle Johnny. We
Okay.
need to recognize our triggers, and if these things are happening to you, you need to tell somebody. I put that in my first book, but I'm going to really hit home with that in my second book, that you need to seek help. There's got to be somebody in your life that you could trust. I had people in my life that I couldn't trust, but I just felt all these other different emotions that I wasn't able to. I wish I would have talked to somebody because I could have saved myself some of the trauma I went through.
Right.
But so that's my message in my second book. We have to open our mouths. We got to break this cycle. We gotta talk, and the only way to break it is to talk about it and get it out there and have these people that are doing these things arrested.
Period. So,
Period.
Miss Mr. Hall, we are about to run out of time.
Okay.
So if you could tell viewers, and I hope Mr. Ellerby brings me back to have a conversation with you so we can follow up and just
Okay.
get more intel on this, because
Yes,
what
ma'am.
you're saying is correct. But what is your uh, Instagram information
Uh,
and Facebook information?
well, you could go to I have a personal website where my book is being sold along with my music. I also design clothing, sportswear, and it's all at Divine Publishing and Apparel.com. Visions haunt me, scars taught me. Seems like Satan got me right where he wants me. He said the demons to come get me. He on my shoulder screaming, he ain't done with me. So I look to the sky and pray harder. Me willing to die, make me a martyr. Allah, please save me from this horror. Sins of my mother, faith of my father.